Alright, guys, so the first bit of this is going to be a spoiler free first impressions of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1. Then I will be going into a spoilery discussion about the first episode. And I'll also give the caveat that I've played The Last of Us Part 2. I'm just going to openly talk about about it from that perspective. So if you've maybe watched the first episode, but you haven't played the second game, you might want to skip out once I give that warning. So here's the thing. If you like The Last of Us, the show, if you haven't played the games, I think you're going to love this. This first episode. It is a very good, solid continuation of that show. However, if you've played The Last of Us Part 2, you will very quickly realize that this show is going to be deviating heavily from the second game. Because the first season was was more or less a shot for shot just remake of the game. Definitely made a bunch of changes, but still a very faithful adaptation of that first game. This second season is not that. And for some people, that's going to be a good thing because The Last of Us Part 2 is very controversial. A lot of people really hate it. So maybe to those people, this show is actually going to be an improvement on the source material. For me, however, The Last of Us Part 2 is my favorite piece of media of all time. The reality is that I have never been as emotionally impacted by a story as I was with The Last of Us Part 2. I mean, I think it's just incredible. And where the show is starting off, it seems like it's going to be what I feared it would be, which is a dumbed down version of The Last of Us Part 2, trying to appeal to more of a mass audience, trying to make the story more palatable, you know. But at the end of the day, though, it's still a good show. It's well made. You know, Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey, you know, a bunch of returning cast, bunch of new cast members. It's all very well done. So I'm not pissing and shitting and cumming my pants over it. I'm not going to go on a big angry rampage because it's not exactly what I want it to be. It's very much its own thing. But I do feel like I should just give my honest thoughts on it from that front. So, spoiler-free thoughts. It is more Last of Us, the show, but it is not The Last of Us Part 2, the game, in very critical ways. So, take with that information what you will. All right, now let's get into the more spoilery discussion of this video. So the show picks up, and again, just to be clear, if you have not played The Last of Us Part 2, don't watch this, because I will be spoiling the game, which will in turn be spoiling the show. So, yeah, it picks up right in the aftermath of the end of Season 1, where we see Ellie's reaction right after Joel lies to her face. Now, I don't think we saw this in the first season, right? I could be wrong, but I don't think we did. I also don't think we saw it in any of the games, right? This, like, aftermath reaction of Ellie very clearly not believing, not buying into Joel's bullshit. Which I kind of like that we got that. It's just a very solid stamp of Ellie did not believe Joel in that moment. Which was always my interpretation, just to be clear. Like, it was always an interesting discussion with The Last of Us Part 1 versus The Last of Us Part 2, where I feel like a lot of people were like, the ending of The Last of Us Part 1 was so ambiguous. Who knew what Ellie believed or didn't believe? They should not stain on the perfectly ambiguous ending of The Last of Us Part 1. I was always of the opinion of, like, it's very obvious that Ellie doesn't believe him. So I appreciate them sort of clarifying that here in this opening for Season 2 of the show. But yeah, I mean, right after we get into what is just immediately telling us that this is not going to be The Last of Us Part 2, which is the reveal of the Fireflies. We immediately see Abby and the rest of her crew, and they just immediately reveal that there is a group of fireflies that are mourning the loss of their loved ones and are going to come after Joel. Again, just right off the bat, this is not The Last of Us Part 2, right? Like, The Last of Us Part 2 is all about the shock of Joel dying. It is all about we, the player, or we, the audience member, going on that journey with Ellie of seeking revenge on the people that did it, not even really knowing why they did it because we're so blinded by that rage. And then once we're confronted, right, with why they did it, then we, the player, have to contend with that. We, the player, have to slowly start sympathizing with Abby. It's just that whole aspect of the story is just immediately not there, because right off the bat, the audience of people that are watching the show, they now know all of that context. They know that Abby was a firefly. They know that they just immediately know why they did it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why, or sorry, I know why they did it, but I just think it's kind of lame personally. And it keeps this show from being as special as the game, in my opinion. Like, now this is a good show. It's good, but it's not nearly as special as the story that the game tells. So, anyways, do with that what you will. We then get our, sorry, I will say, I did like this line that I thought it was pretty badass when Abby was like, slowly, we're gonna kill him slowly, or whatever she says. I did think that was a pretty badass line. I will also mention Abby. I guess technically she wouldn't be super buff here anyways. But I mean, I think we already know that she's not going to be nearly as buff in the show. So I will say, it is just interesting because one of the other weird things about this first episode is that Bella Ramsey does not look older than she did in the first season. But at the same time, it's like Caitlin Dever, the girl that's playing Abby, also doesn't really look all that old, right? Like, she still looks like a kind of a kid. Also, so does Dina, for that matter. So it's like, yeah, Bella Ramsey doesn't look age appropriate to Ellie from The Last of Us Part 2, but the supporting cast around her also don't feel that much older. So I guess it all kind of balances out. But yeah, speaking of that, I do also feel like they immediately acknowledge the fact that Bella Ramsey is still a tiny little girl, by having this scene where she's fighting this guy, and they just like very much like acknowledge, like, yeah, she's a small girl, she's not very strong, and so she's gonna be like finding other ways to fight and get, murder all of the people that she's gonna murder throughout the course of the show. So I appreciated the way that they handled that. I have been of the opinion of, like, maybe they should have done a recasting, right? Similarly to how House of the Dragon recasted the main character, like, halfway through the first season. But I'm okay with it, also because I imagine they didn't want to screw over Bella Ramsey, and they probably just really like working with her. And so they kind of like molded the show after the fact that she still very much looks the same. So I'm not mad at it, but I also would have been okay with a recasting. I will say, I do really like that Dina and Joel have a little bit of a relationship in the show versus the game. Like, Dina and Joel, they didn't even really interact in the game, I don't think. So I thought the whole scene of Joel, teaching Dina how to like fix some electrical thing, I don't even remember what it was, I thought that was very cute. The fact that Dina is trying to like repair Joel and Ellie's relationship, I think is also very cute. So I will say that is actually an addition in this show that I like. I actually feel like it expands on the game a bit, which I don't mind at all. I will say one very weird thing about Bella Ramsey's performance, and not to be fair, not her performance, but the way that Ellie's written, is that she's very much written in the same way that Ellie was written in the first season and in the first game. Because in the Last of Us Part 2, Ellie is very much like more mature, right? She's not just lashing out at people as much. She's not cursing all over the place. Like I don't think that Ellie in The Last of Us Part 2 would have done what she does with Tommy here, where she's kind of like throwing a little tantrum. So it's just weird because they say that she's 5 years older, they say that she's 19, but it's not just that she looks old, that she looks the same age. She kind of acts the same age. But then again, they also, I feel like, kind of changed Dina a bit to make her also feel a little younger as well. Like she's also, I feel like, a little more mature in the second game as well. So again, it's different. It's not bad necessarily. It's not like again, if you're just watching the show, you might not even notice that as much. But again, it's just different, and I almost wonder if maybe they didn't even need to do a 5-year time jump if the characters are just gonna more or less feel the same. But it's also kind of an interesting thing of like, well, there are immature 19-year-olds, right? It's not like every 19-year-old is just this beacon of maturity, just to be clear. So it works, I think. We also got introduced to Maria and Tommy's kid, which I don't think was ever the case. Yeah, no, he wasn't in the second game at all. So this is just a new character. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do with that. But I thought it was very cute, his interaction with Joel. And then when Tommy comes in and picks him up, I thought, very cute. Will probably end in tragedy. Oh boy. Joel and Maria also have an argument about, like, the fact that the town is starting to struggle. They're running out of room to take more, like, refugees in, and they have a little argument about how Maria doesn't want to stop taking refugees in. Joel is more pragmatic about it, and he's willing to make hard choices in that regard. I thought it was an interesting conversation. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. They're obviously teasing bad things coming to the town. So I assume this whole argument is gonna pop back up pretty soon. We also got introduced to a therapist character, which is definitely not in the game. It seems like this conversation is like a replacement for the conversation with Tommy in the first game, where Tommy is confessing, or where Joel is confessing to Tommy that, that he saved Ellie from the Fireflies and that he killed a bunch of Fireflies in order to do it. I assume we're going to get a scene where Joel confesses that to this therapist. I think that would make sense. But either way, I really like the therapist character. I like the way that she kind of just knows that he's lying to her about something. I thought this scene with Pedro Pascal was really good, where he was like, I saved her. That's what I did. That's what I did to Ellie. I saved her. And yeah, I think I already mentioned this, but I really like the Ellie and Dina dynamic in this show. I think that Isabella Merced and Bella Ramsey actually have fantastic chemistry. I'll actually give the show this. I think that I like Ellie and Dina more in the show than I do in the game. I really like Ellie and Dina in the game, but there is just like a little extra spark that I feel Isabella Merced and Bella Ramsey have. So I will give the show this. Oh yeah, I guess I might as well talk about Jesse. He's fine. He's very much the character from the game. Voice not as deep though. I I gotta be real about that. So Jesse is not as sexy in the show as he is in the game because he doesn't have that deep Texan voice. I can't even do it because I am not him. I'm not him. Okay. I will say there were a couple jokes that I thought were genuinely funny, like when both Dina and Jesse said that Ellie looks like Curtis and Viper, which I thought was a reference to like an old movie, but apparently it's a reference to a fictional movie in the universe of The Last of Us, which is kind of fun. I also thought this scene here where like Dina's talking to Ellie about the dance, and she asks if she's gonna take the only. I think it was a character named Kate or Mara or Kat. I think it was Kat. To the dance, and Dina was like, "Well, yeah, I'm asking you if you're gonna take her because she's the other one." I thought that was a fun scene. Actually, pretty funny and fun episode for the most part. I assume it'll get depressing pretty soon, but this first episode was actually had a fun tone to it, I would argue. We also got introduced to a smart zombie, which is way different from the game. This is not a thing in the game, I don't think. Pretty creepy too. They kind of explore this idea that the zombie is able to like do advanced tactics where she's like luring Ellie into position in order to get the drop on her. I mean, if you just look at the zombie as well, it seems more human. There's like emotion in this performer's eyes, and the noises that she makes is also like it sounds like she's like in pain when you when you listen to her. It's pretty disturbing. Like to think about what like the human underneath the fungus is like going through. It's like, is there something there behind all of that, behind the fungus? I don't know. I really love the fact that they're exploring like a new type of zombie in the show though. I do like that a lot. So yeah, well, we'll see where that goes, but very very creepy. By the way, the scene where Ellie is fighting the zombie as well, they do a thing that I love in horror movies where like your main character will be doing something in the foreground, and then in the background you just like see something creepy going on, and there's a scene here where you see the zombie just kind of like crawling in the background, but it's like done in such a way where it's like you don't even really notice that she's there initially, and you kind of like get a glimpse of it. It's like, ah. I also like the scene where like the council is just yapping. They're just talking about problems, but they're not being like proactive about it. Kind of like the government, am I right? But yeah, I assume that's like commentary on how, you know, Congress just yaps all the time and doesn't do anything. I will say this is weirdly like the one scene that's right out of the game. I feel like most of everything in the episode is just like kind of original or like so rapidly like just changed from the game that you can barely even call them scenes from the game. This like dance sequence is like right out of the game, and yeah, I thought they did a really good job of it. And I will say this again, I will give the show credit where credit is due. I actually like the way that this scene plays, being like at the beginning of the story, is interesting because obviously like Dina telling Ellie like, "Oh Ellie, I think they should be terrified of you," and Ellie being like, "Oh, I'm not a threat." It's like that obviously plays to their relationship. It's a very cute moment. But it's also kind of like meta commentary on the story to come, right? Where it's like, yeah, Ellie's not a threat. She's not presumed to be a threat. But everybody should be terrified of her because we know that she's going to go on a murderous rampage. So I actually kind of like the way that this scene plays at the beginning of the season. This also makes me wonder, like, how are they playing this off in the show? Because we see the scene where Ellie blows up at Joel after defending her from the homophobe guy. It's like, does Ellie know at this point, or like, did she maybe find out what Joel did, but instead of confronting him like she does in the game, she doesn't confront him in the show and is instead just giving him the cold shoulder? I don't know. Good. Well, and I asked that because in the scene with the therapist, it almost seems like Joel doesn't know that Ellie knows, or the way that he talks about it gave me the impression that Ellie doesn't know yet what happened. So yeah, I will be interested to see how they end up like playing when she finds out, if she already knows or if she's going to find out at some point. And is she giving him the cold shoulder just because of she just doesn't feel right about it, or is it because she definitively knows that Joel lied to her about the Fireflies? I'm not really sure yet, but we will have to find out. I will say again, I thought this was going to be the scene from the end of the game where, where Joel and Ellie have their like reconciliation, but it's not. Ellie just kind of like walks past him. So again, are they? But it seems like a fake out, right? Where like the scene starts the way with Joel on the porch with the guitar. I wonder if we are gonna have that scene at some point, or if it's just gonna come in a different like way. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, they very much tease that like I think what they're teasing here is that this like fungus that got in through the pipes is gonna send out like a signal to all the zombies in the area, and they're all just gonna start swarming the compound at once. I think that that's what this is leading up to. Um, and then Abby's here, so presumably there's gonna be just a horde of zombies coming into the compound. Joel is gonna go out to help deal with them, and then Abby's gonna eventually meet up with Joel, and then the golfing session is probably gonna happen. So I would have the way that this is building up to it kind of sounds like, or it kind of seems like it's gonna happen next episode, but who knows? Maybe they delay it even more. Who knows? Not me. But let's find out together. And yeah, let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Obviously, I have my very game informed opinions. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.